First of all, Your Excellency, how would you evaluate the current level of diplomatic relations
Yeah.
between Qatar and the United States of America?
Yeah. First, I would say that the friendship between the U.S. and Qatar has always been in evidence and on display. But you asked about our diplomatic ties. I would say that they are stronger than they have ever been. Whether we are working together on humanitarian assistance, whether we are working on security, which is a very big deal for us. An example of which is that we just held the very first hostage recovery exercise that we've held with any country. And we chose Qatar to do this with because our relationship on security, on economy, on trade and commerce is so strong. There isn't an issue in the region, and there are barely any issues in the world in which we don't stand shoulder to shoulder with Qatar as an ally, as a friend, as a leader globally. And so, in answer to your question, our diplomatic ties are stronger than they have
Excellency,
ever
could
been.
you highlight some key achievements of the U.S. Embassy in Qatar during your time here in the
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's been a really fascinating year. I feel like I've been embraced wherever I've gone in Qatar, and so this very quickly has felt like home. Recently our Foreign Commercial Service has hosted a virtual meeting with entrepreneurs, with business people in the United States interested in doing business here in Qatar. I mentioned the security work that we have done together. Qatar's World Cup was an opportunity for us to work together on cybersecurity, on tourism and trade. We held our fifth strategic dialogue earlier this year. It was inaugurated during the World Cup between the now Prime Minister and our Secretary of State. But there have been countless achievements over the last year owing to the strength of this partnership. I am particularly heartened by the fact that we communicate at all levels, whether it's capital to capital, our embassy to the ministries here, our cultural affairs folks. In fact, one of the deputy director of the Qatar Philharmonic was just in the United States on an exchange program and got to perform in my hometown of New Orleans. That should be an indication to you that over the last year, we haven't just built a diplomatic relationship, we have built personal bonds. I'm so gratified to see Qatar get the respect and the acclaim that it deserves outside of New York and Los Angeles and Miami, but in the heartland of America. And so I think the sky's the limit for this relationship, and much of that was started in the last year.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Your Excellency, are there any plans in the future to facilitate the visa procedures to America for Qataris and for residents in Qatar?
Yeah, so this is really important to us. The idea that Americans can travel to Qatar and that Qataris, whether they be students or business people or tourists, can get to the United States. And so our consular section has worked very hard to make sure that there is a process here that is smooth. I will tell you, when I first got here, every meeting I had involved someone talking to me about visas, but I haven't heard that very much lately because I believe we've streamlined our processes both here at the embassy and back in Washington. And I believe people are getting the kind of customer service, the kind of friendship that they expect from an ally. And so it's a priority. The ease of travel for Qataris to the United States, no matter what sector, no matter what the goal is.
Okay, Your Excellency, would you tell me if there are any specific areas both sides are seeking to enhance cooperation in?
Yeah, so there are obvious ones. We want to continue to enhance our security relationship. We want to continue to work on humanitarian assistance together. I've been gratified that for Qatar, for His Highness the Emir, for people working with children, the idea of enhancing the lives of those with disabilities is a priority, as it is for us. One of the most wonderful things that I got to go to over the last year was a fair, a festival that focused on autism, where I met educators and people leading in the non-governmental organization space who are absolutely focused on ensuring that education here in Qatar fit the needs for all kinds of families and all kinds of students. And so education will continue to be important. We have the Fulbright program where we have brought experts from the United States for year-long stays, embedded them in universities here, working on tech, working on medical, but we're also seeking PhDs now to do the Fulbright program in reverse and go to the United States. And so I think that what we want in our relationship, the things we'll focus on in the future, can be marked by the word balance. Can be marked by the idea that both sides have great people, culture, expertise to offer that only strengthen the relationship.
Cool. Your Excellency, would you tell me about the cooperation between Qatar and the United States regarding the humanitarian crises worldwide?
Yeah, so the beauty of Qatar is that there are some situations in which the United States has to lead and point to where we think humanitarian assistance is necessary. We don't have to do that with Qatar. Whether it's the Qatar charities, whether it is Qatar's work with the Red Crescent, Qatar ably identifies the places that they want to focus on with regard to humanitarian assistance, and there's a very strong overlap with the United States. You know the global crises, right? The war in Ukraine, humanitarian assistance in Gaza, helping ensure that in North Africa people aren't going hungry. Qatar is absolutely a leader in this regard, and those are our priorities as well. I was having a conversation yesterday about countries around the region that are thinking about how they create emergency stores of food. And I said to the person I was talking to, well, Qatar is the right place to talk about this. I've been out to Hamad Port. I've seen how Qatar has been thoughtful about how it ensures food security at home, which makes that expertise exportable around the world to ensure that people aren't going hungry. I don't know the exact number, but the number of lives that are saved, the number of children that are being fed and not hungry because of Qatari initiative has to be in the millions.
The last question we have for this conversation, is there a role for the private sector in enhancing economic cooperation and technological innovation between the United States and Qatar?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question. I will tell you that when I talk to American companies, I say to them, I need you more than you need me, right? I need your initiative, expertise, entrepreneurial spirit to build relationships with Qatar's entrepreneurs and business people. We took a delegation, my deputy took a delegation to Washington, D.C., Qatari businessmen and businesswomen to a conference called Select USA, where they could talk to experts in the government, talk to experts from states and municipalities about how to build businesses in the United States. And Qatar is being open to U.S. businesses doing it here. And so ultimately, the questions that you've asked about humanitarian assistance, about the relationship we're building in culture, about the importance of trade and commerce, those are the things that actually build a relationship. Governments do a fine job of building a structure for a relationship, but the growth that we see with huge American corporations like Google, like Microsoft here in Doha is really important. But there are a bunch of businesses right in the middle who, if they can connect, if they can find space to build here, and Qatari small, medium enterprises in the United States, those are the things that are going to ensure that this relationship is one that is a model for bilateral relationships around the world, but also can be used for good when there are crises around the world. And so, yes, there's a place and a role for the private sector, and it's not a minor role. It is the central fiber of a relationship that we think ultimately will have positive impact for decades to come around the world.
Do you start to take some real steps regarding this private sector?
Well, yeah. So the as I mentioned, the Select USA was important. We have a commercial services office, foreign commercial services office here. When American companies are interested in doing business in Qatar, it's part of my job, part of our job here to help them understand the business environment, to help connect them to the right people, the right business people here. And so we have done that. We think we've got a great sort of infrastructure for that. And so we're seeing the real time benefits of that all the time. There's a wonderful story of a Qatari businesswoman who was in the United States and for a conference, and she would go to the same coffee shop every day before she went to her meetings. And one morning she went in and she loved what they were doing, and she asked to speak to the owner, and she said, "Are you looking for a partner?" And the owner had never thought about it, but said yes. Right? That's the environment we want to build. We want to make sure that we're making opportunities for these partnerships. There's smart people on both sides who will do the work. Our job is to help facilitate the opportunities.
Okay, Your Excellency, thank you so much
Thank
indeed.
you.
We would like to thank Mr. Timmy Davis, the American ambassador in Qatar. Thank you so much indeed for joining us in this great
It was
conversation.
my pleasure. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
speaking to you
Thank you
again.
so much.